Welcome to the first edition of Gametime Situation, Spring Style. I'm Brendan Bittner.
And I'm Matt Brubaker. It may be spring semester, but it sure hasn't felt much like spring yet.
Well, we've got the basketball teams and wrestling team heating up Cates Gymnasium, and the swimming teams are keeping it warm in the pool.
And the indoor track teams have climbed the national poll to #1 ranking in Division II.
The snow outside won't prevent us from going on with our show tonight, so we'll get you out of those winter blues and bring you up to speed on all AU sports.
Well, we'll be pretty busy tonight then. Shouldn't we get started?
Well, what time is it?
It's game time.
Who? The Ashland men's basketball team continued an extended road trip on January 15th as the Eagles squared off with Grand Valley. In December, the Eagles knocked off the then 7th-ranked Lakers at Cates Gymnasium by 1 point. This time in Allendale, it was a different story. The Eagles earned a quick 6-point lead, but it quickly evaporated. Ashland trailed by 7 at the break, receiving no points from their bench. Forward Blake Saunders had 15 of Ashland's 27 first-half points. The Eagles were able to notch the game at 42 with more than 14 minutes to play, but the Lakers ran a 5-0 run and never looked back as the Eagles fell 74-64. Saunders finished with 22 points, while Cale Richardson finished with a double-double with 13 points and 10 boards. The bench managed just 2 points and no field goals for the entire game as they took just 3 shots. 4 Eagles played at least 32 minutes, which may have taken its toll in the next game less than 48 hours later at Ferris State. So after the Eagles ran ragged in Allendale, the Bulldogs ran ragged over the Eagles when they made the trip to Big Rapids. The Ferris State rolled Ashland 100-74. The Bulldogs wrapped up 54 points in the first half to lead by 23 at the break as they shot 54% from the field, hitting 8 threes in the first half. Ashland shot just 32% in the first half, and it did not get better for AU in the second half. Head coach Roger Lyons was thrown out of the game with 11 minutes left as he argued calls against his team. Darian Gay led Ferris with 23 points as one of 5 players in double figures. Richardson had 18 points, and Brett Wackerly put up 16 in the losing effort. Ashland was out-rebounded 42-29 and turned the ball over 15 times. Matt, it didn't go so well for the Eagles in Michigan. How did they do when they returned to Cates Gymnasium?
The Ashland men's basketball team opened up the spring semester against a Hillsdale team primed for a win. These two teams met last season and scored a combined 222 points in an overtime thriller. This contest would be different, though. The Eagles were on a 2-game losing streak and during that streak had no fast break whatsoever. The pattern would continue against the Chargers as the Eagles scored only 4 fast break points. The first half was very slow, and after 20 minutes of play, nothing was solved as both teams were tied at 28. The Chargers began the second half with a bucket and took the lead 30-28 and never relinquished it. The Eagles continued to make a run after run, but nothing seemed to work as the Eagle charge was stuffed every time as the Eagles were down 66-62. The Eagles were beaten for the 8th time this season, and a big reason why was the lack of an offensive presence. Byron Hatcher led the Eagles with 21 points, and the only other Eagle in double figures was Cale Richardson with 16. Senior guard Brett Wackerly scored only 4 points in the loss. AU's next opponent was even tougher. Whenever a rival comes to your building, a team gets even more pumped for the game. Then, when the opponent is the #1 ranked and undefeated Findlay Oilers, the hype is out of this world. That was the case on Saturday, January 24th, as the Eagles and the Oiler fans alike packed Cates Gymnasium to watch another great chapter of this great rivalry. As the first half went on, the Eagles looked to be unfazed by the team that they were playing. Both Wackerly and Richardson were dialed in from deep as the Eagles squad shot 7 of 9 from downtown. The halftime score would read Findlay 38, Ashland 36. The second half proved to everyone in Cates who was the better team. The Oilers were warming up a rather cold day in Ashland as the team made 3 after 3 to take the heart out of the Eagle fans and then for good measure made a few more to put the dagger in the Eagle team. As a team, Findlay shot 12 from 22 from behind the arc and every starter scored in double figures. Ashland didn't quit, though, as Cale Richardson scored 20 points, playing most of the second half with foul trouble, and Wackerly added 18. Another chapter in the rivalry was closed as the Oilers knocked off the Eagles 84-65 to move to 16-0 on the season. The Eagles fell to 7-9 on the year and 5-7 in the GLIAC. That wraps up our men's basketball coverage. We'll take a look at the women's team when we come back. Stay tuned, everybody.
My name's Andy McDonald. I ride this useless wooden toy for a living. It's hard. I've been doing it for 13 years. I'm still lame. I do a trick called a 540. Took me a good 6 years to learn. There's a whole generation of skateboarders out there that are just as talented athletically as any basketball or football player. It takes somebody that's not going to be afraid to fall down a lot, because you definitely will fall down. You're not a failure until you refuse to get back up. Drugs are only going to hinder what I'm trying to do. That right there is my idea of getting high.
What do a store owner, a mother of two, and an honor student have in common? They've all recovered from a mental health problem, and they're all part of our lives. Mental health problems are surprisingly common. They affect almost every family in America, maybe even yours. Get the facts about mental health. Call 1-800-789-2647 because mental health is part of all our lives.
Here's something to think about. New research shows that regular exercise and a heart-healthy diet may help to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Thinking ahead now might make all the difference tomorrow. For more ways to maintain your brain, visit the Alzheimer's Association at alz.org.
Believe that eating meals together will make our country strong? Is this something that you did when you were a kid?
I did eat with my family so long as my mother wasn't cooking.
Not good making fun of your mother, even if you are president, but it is good to have dinner with your kids. We know the more often children have dinner with their families, the less likely they are to smoke, drink, and use drugs. So simply having dinner together can help your children forever, even if you're not a great cook.
Welcome back to Game Time Situation. The women's basketball team played its fifth consecutive road game in Allendale, Michigan, against Grand Valley on January 15th. The Eagles did not seem to be fazed by the typically glorified Grand Valley name. Ashland led by 18 with a few minutes to play in the first half as they controlled the first 18 minutes. The Eagles still carried 14-point lead into halftime at 42-28. And then Lacey Romine lit up the scoreboard for Ashland in the first half as she laced. Get it? Lacey Romine. She laced the nets for 17 points on 7 of 10 shooting. The Eagles also controlled the glass in the first half, 26-11, and Betsy Morrison nearly had a double-double in the first 20 minutes with 9 points and 8 rebounds. The second half was a different story, though, for the Eagles. Losing leads has become a common trend for this team of late, and Matt will tell you later against Findlay, Grand Valley took its first lead of the game with 8 minutes left, then led the rest of the way. The Eagles fought in the last couple minutes, forcing the Lakers to miss free throws, but they fell just short in the 79-75 defeat. Lacey Romine finished with 22 points, and Lindsey Warren tallied 14 points and 14 rebounds for Ashland. So after that loss, the Eagles' third straight, they needed to get out of their frustrations on someone. That someone was the Ferris State Bulldogs. The Eagles jumped out quickly against Ferris State and led by 17 at the break with a score of 49-32. Betsy Morrison had 12 points at halftime, bearing all 4 of her shots, all from behind the arc. Every player scored in the first 20 minutes for the Eagles as they shot 50% and 9 of 13 from 3. Not much change in the second half. The Bulldogs went on a mini run to cut the lead to 5 midway through the second half, but the Eagles regained control and closed the game on a 17-6 run. Ashland finished 16 for 18 from the line and forced Ferris State to shoot just 15% from behind the arc and 40% overall. Matt, the Eagles were par for the weekend in Michigan to close out their 6-game road trip. How did they do in their first game at Cates Gymnasium in more than a month?
The Lady Eagles finally made it home to Cates Gymnasium after a tough road trip filled with 4 losses and one great story to tell about their bus driver. Details on that later. The Eagles' next opponent was the 7th-ranked Chargers from Hillsdale, and the Eagles were smelling upset. The Eagles had to worry about containing GLIAC Player of the Week Katie Cezot much of the night. The Chargers jumped out to the halftime lead 35-25, and Czot was a big reason for that. She played great defense, shot the ball well, only missing 3 shots, and was able to clean up on the offensive and defensive glass. The second was all Chargers as the Eagles managed to run here and there, but here and there doesn't win games. The Chargers prevailed 73-62 as 4 Charger players scored in double figures. I know all of you diehard Game Time fans are wondering, how did Czot do? What were her numbers? Well, guess what? I come bearing gifts. Czot had 17 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks. Impressive, eh?
Not bad.
There's a reason she was featured in Sports Illustrated. The Eagles seemed to struggle all game, but Betsy Morrison did play well. She recorded a double-double with 10 points and 13 rebounds. Lindsey Warren led the Eagles with 14 points, and Lisa Grau chipped in 12. The loss dropped the Eagles to 10-6 on the season. Finley coming to town means one thing to the Ashland women's basketball team. Let's get a win over our rival. Not so fast, my fellow Eagle viewers. Finley came to play this past Saturday. The first half was a one-man wrecking crew. Wait, woman, I don't know. Anyway, the Eagles made 7 of 10 threes in the first half alone and led 39-30 at pizza time. Oh, I mean halftime. The second half started exactly the opposite for both teams. The Eagles couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, and Finley couldn't miss. The Oilers used a 21-11 run in the first 11 minutes of the second half to take a 51-50 lead with just over 9 minutes remaining. The lead went back and forth all the way to the final minutes. With Finley leading 60-59, the Eagles had the basketball and one last chance to make the big shot. Alethea Lamberson took the inbounds pass at the top of the key and dribbled to the left wing. No one got open, so she had to heave up a prayer, and the prayer was not answered. The Eagles lost by that count, 60-59, and Lamberson felt horrible. She did play well, though, scoring 6 points, dishing out 7 assists. Lindsey Warren paced the Eagles again with 15 points, and Lisa Grau had 11 points and 10 rebounds. The Eagles now fell to 10-7 overall and 6-6 in GLIAC play. That's the scoop on women's basketball. We're going to take our second timeout, and we will be back with more Game Time Situation right after this.
Hey, honey. You okay?
Jill's pregnant.
Our Jill?
Our Jill. I've been thinking, though, nothing really has to change because when the baby comes, I'll help her. We'll help her, right?
She's just a kid.
We never thought it would happen to us. We didn't know how to best help her through the tough decisions she'd have to make. We found that help. And not just for her, but for us too.
Where there's help, there's hope.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Welcome back to Game Time Situation. The Eagle wrestling team hosted a pair of Division I foes for its 20th annual Wendy's Classic Duels at Case Gymnasium on January 17th. In the first duel of the day for Ashland, East Stroudsburg topped the Eagles in a tight contest 21-19. The Eagles won the first match of the day as Dan Mandera beat his opponent in a major decision 11-2 in the 125-pound weight class. Ashland did not win again until Justin Ferguson, the same Justin Ferguson, who is a tailback on the Eagle football team, won at 174 pounds. After Tom Kerrigan lost in a technical fall at 184, the Eagles were out of contention for the win. That didn't matter to the Eagles' final two wrestlers, though, as Josh Ole and Jesse Campbell, who each earned pins in their matches to close the duel. But the lost points in the technical fall and other matches earlier in the day were too much to overcome. The Eagles then took on Big Ten opponent Purdue. The Boilermakers had too much for the Eagles to handle, winning 34-3. Ole was the only Eagle wrestler to pull out a win in the match, beating Logan Brown 7-6. He is now 18-2 on the season and leads the Eagles with 4 pins. The only other Eagle wrestler with double-digit wins is Tony Bradbury, who is 12-11, but lost twice in the Wendy's duels. Matt, the Eagles stayed in Ashland last weekend at the Simonson Construction Open. How did they do?
The Eagle wrestling team was wrestling with injuries to their two best talents, Josh Ole and Justin Ferguson. Even with that said, the Eagles fared well at the Simonson Construction Open. Scott Myers at 141 pounds led the way, taking second in his weight class, losing to Josh Spellman in the championship match 9-1. Kyle Kanaga and Adley Edwards also wrestled in the 141-pound weight class and finished 3rd and 6th respectively. Also at 149 pounds, Tommy Grazel finished 5-1 en route to a 3rd-place finish on the day. Grazel avenged an early 10-6 loss to Zach Nelson from Ohio University by later defeating him 3-1 in the consolation rounds. The Eagles are on the mat next at Pitt Johnstown tomorrow night. They then host Mercyhurst at 7 p.m. on Saturday at Cates Gymnasium.
Do you think you'd notice if you were missing half of your money, or half your friends, your better half, your half and half? What if you were missing half of your kidney function? You'd think you'd notice, but you could have chronic kidney disease right now and not even know it. According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Chronic kidney disease is a growing epidemic. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or a family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Certain ethnic groups are at an even higher risk. Early diagnosis and treatment of this disease and its complications are vitally important. To get the whole story on chronic kidney disease, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call 1-800-622-9010 for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half of it.
No matter what type of home renovation you're planning, put this at the top of your to-do list. Make sure your family is up to date on the tetanus vaccine, because after 10 years, none of you are protected against tetanus and another potentially fatal disease, diphtheria. A minor injury, such as a cut or a scrape, can put you at risk for a tetanus infection. And while safety gear offers some protection, an up-to-date vaccination called the TD booster is your best insurance against tetanus. If it's been more than 10 years since your last booster, then it's not just your house that's out of date, it's you. If it's been 10, do it again. Talk to your healthcare provider to find out if it's time for a TD booster or visit nfid.org.
Welcome back to Game Time Situation. The Ashland University men's and women's swimming teams topped the Edinburgh Fighting Scots on Friday, January 23rd. The men's team drowned the Scots, pun intended, 118-78, while the women's team won 134-71. Sophomore Chewy Vogel won 3 events for the Eagles, claiming wins in the 100 butterfly, 200 freestyle, and was a part of the 200 medley relay team that also consisted of senior Oscar Thomason and juniors Sean McGraw and Matt Clements. The Eagles actually took the top 4 spots in the 200 freestyle as junior Arthur Guval, junior Ben Monty, and sophomore Todd Polak finished right behind Vogel. On the women's side, freshman Mara Anderson and sophomore Allison Morgan each won 3 events apiece. Morgan took wins in the 50 freestyle, 100 butterfly, and was a part of the 200 freestyle relay team that finished first. Anderson won the 100 breaststroke, 100 free, and was on the winning 200 medley relay team. The next day, the Eagles traveled to Clarion, Pennsylvania, to take on the Golden Eagles of Clarion. Apparently, they are worth more than we are being gold and all. I don't know. Clarion took the gold as both the men and women defeated the regular Eagles from Ashland. For the men, it was sophomore Jesper Madsen leading the way with 3 wins. He won the 200 breast and the 200 individual medley, and was also a member of the winning 400 medley relay team. Sophomore Eric Hackinson won the 200 backstroke, and sophomore Brian Werhatch claimed the win in the 50 butterfly. The Lady Eagles had the top 3 performers in the 500 free, 50 butterfly, and the 200 individual medley. Those races were won by Katie Moga, Morgan, and Anderson, respectively. Ashland also had the top 3 finishes in the 400 freestyle relay. The men's team is now 12-6 on the season, while the women's side stands at 6-12. Brendan, that's it for the Tankers. How is the indoor track team doing?
On the indoor track teams, Carlin Isles and Alyssa Klein have earned weekly track and field awards from the GLIAC. Isles, a freshman, is the GLIAC Male Track Athlete of the Week. Isles won 3 events last week at Findlay's Northwest Invitational. He finished first in the 60 meters and won the long jump and 200. This is the second time this season Isles has been named the GLIAC Men's Track Athlete of the Week. And you can see the automatic qualifiers in the graphic there. Alyssa Klein, a senior, became the 4th member of the AU women's track and field team to reach an automatic qualification for the national meet. She recorded a time of 8.6 seconds in the 60-meter hurdles last week at Findlay, which earned her the automatic ticket to the championships. She had a time of 25.5 seconds in the 200-meter dash, and that's a provisional qualification. Klein won the 200 meters and was the top collegiate finisher in both the long jump and hurdles. So we've got this game coming up on Sunday. I've heard it's going to be played in Miami. It's going to be the Steelers and the Cardinals. I don't know. It's kind of a big deal to some people, but
A little bit, yeah.
yeah. So you've heard of it. It's the Super Bowl.
Yeah, big game. Yeah.
Right. Lots of hoopla around this game. So the Steelers and the Cardinals, of course, making their first appearance in the Super Bowl. The Steelers, obviously very experienced there, played in the Super Bowl 3 years ago and won it. So what are your thoughts coming into this game? What do the Cardinals have to do to maybe pull off the upset against the Steelers?
I think first, I think everyone knows that this Super Bowl is favoring the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Arizona Cardinals, not many people thought they even deserved to be in the playoffs at all. They proved those people wrong. But as a lot of people know, even last year, upsets can happen in a big Super Bowl like this when the Giants beat the Patriots. I think if the Cardinals win this football game, they have to obviously run their offense, but the big key, I think, is their defense and stopping Pittsburgh's defense as well.
I think, and then you've got this Kurt Warner is the quarterback of the Cardinals, not necessarily a prototypical quarterback for this team, for this kind of team, an inexperienced team. He's the leader of that club because he's the one who's won a title before. He won the Super Bowl over the over the Titans, and he also lost the Super Bowl against the Patriots. So, of course, he is no stranger to the big atmosphere that'll be played down in Miami, and that should be definitely a fun one. I'm rooting for the Cardinals. I think you're rooting for the Cardinals as well.
I think anyone around here that's even close to Cleveland is rooting for the Cardinals.
Right.
I am one of them.
Right, and Larry Fitzgerald, obviously we didn't even bring him up, but he's a key to everything they do. Every team game plans to stop him, and nobody's been able to do it yet.
His gloves work.
Yep, something like that. Yeah, he doesn't drop any balls out back there, and continues to make spectacular plays. Well, Matt, what do you think? That was a busy couple weeks in AU sports.
Yeah, it was. Now, if we can get the basketball teams winning and into the conference playoffs, we'll be looking at quite an end of the winter season.
Well, everyone knows where they can keep up with their Eagle athletic news, and that's right here on Gametime Situation.
We'll be back with a new edition of Gametime at 6:30 on February 12th, so mark your calendars to join us then.
We hope to see you then. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.